Welcome to Master B2B, the world's first and only unwebinar series. My name is Brian Beck, and I am thrilled to be joined again today by Andy Hoare. And for those of you who don't know Andy, Andy is a longtime industry expert in B2B e-commerce and digital transformation, 7 years at Forrester Research, running their B2B e-commerce practice, and the CEO of Paradigm B2B. And he's copying off me today. Andy, you got the same shirt on, I think. Welcome.
Brian, great to be here. By the way, you noticed your book didn't make the cut this week.
No, apparently not. That's okay.
But yeah, great to be here. For those of you who don't know Brian, he's a 20-year industry veteran, author of the book that you can't see up there called Billion Dollar B2B Commerce. But boy, here it comes, Brian.
I'm bringing it out, man. Here it is.
And a highly sought after both speaker and consultant. So good to be here, Brian.
Yeah, so we've got a doozy today, Andy. You and I have been waiting a while to do this one. We'll get to that in just a moment, but it's Amazon versus Google, and we're excited about this debate. So for everyone who's joining today, this is a debate style format, and you have a chance to vote. The audience, at the end of each of our 3 rounds today, you'll have a chance to vote on who won that round. We've got 2 teams of fantastic practitioners. We want your questions. So put your questions into the Q&A box on the right-hand side. We had a few questions in advance, and we're going to try to get to as many as we can. We also have a sponsor, that's Spryker Systems, and Spryker is going to be subject to the same tough questions. So make sure you submit. So, again, Andy, we've been waiting to do this topic for a while now. It's really, we're pitting the 2 heavyweights in top of funnel against each other today, Amazon and Google. And the question is, who's going to win the search, the war for product search? And I'm looking at who's logging in again. This is another hot topic. I see Hazel Ramshell from Lego is on here. Brady Kerr from Sonopar just signed in. Laura and Kelly from Henkel. Hello, Kelly. Good to see you. Master Lock is here. We've got Sherwin-Williams. We've got, there's Don Rundell from Schneider Electric. McMaster Cars on, Andy. We've got CDW here, Lisa Wood, Avery Products, a bunch of people from Amazon, of course, and Akko Brands, and of course, as usual, all of 3M. And this is, this topic, Andy, is something that I deal with every day in my firm in SIBA, where we work with B2B firms. And I get these questions. Do I need to be selling on Amazon to stay relevant to my buyers? Personally, I think so. So today I'm taking the side of Amazon. You're going to be leaning on the side of Google. And when we posted this a week ago, Andy, we asked the question on LinkedIn, as we usually do. We asked the question, is Google or Amazon going to win the war for product search in B2B? And as usual, we got thousands of likes, shares, and comments. And I think a couple of these kind of frame the issue nicely. I just want to read 1 or 2 of them for our audience and for you, Andy, to weigh in on and react to. Here's one from Gavin DeFries, who's at the global industrial products company Asbill, which I think you know, Andy. He said, I would say that Google has the advantage on complex sales searches, but I put solid money on Amazon for commodity and part number searches. So where B2B companies should focus their top of funnel efforts depends on the product and purchase type. I thought that was interesting. And then we had a follow-on comment from Jason Hine, who Jason is at Bloomreach now, but he was on the founding team at Amazon Business. And one of the things Jason said is, I'd suggest the difference boils down to intent. People search on Google to research and products, and people use Amazon to purchase. But, I guess, Andy, is this really true? I mean, why do we see such a high percentage of product searches starting on Amazon, at least on the consumer side? We're going to debate today whether that's happening on B2B as well. But what's your thoughts on this? What's the issue, Andy?
Yeah, well, we'll get to this in a moment. Actually, there's another great Jason Hine quote coming up later where he talks about how Amazon's product pages fall, I believe the term was miserably or horribly short of delivering the kind of information you need. So yeah, we've got that and we'll bring that up later. So hey, you're right. We've been waiting to have this one for a while because this is pitting the 2 behemoths in the space. I mean, between the 2 of them, Amazon or Alphabet, Amazon and Alphabet, or otherwise known as Google, I think they have a combined market cap of over $3 trillion, $750 billion between them of revenue. And we all know that Google has dominated the search space for years. I think it's 90% in the US, 92% globally. But what's interesting about this, and we're going to show a few slides here, is that when you talk about the concept of product search, it's a slightly different story. And I think there's a lot of evidence in B2C about this. And we're going to draw upon some of this because it's highly instructive. So if you see the slide here, you'll notice that 74% of US consumers, again, this is B2C, begin their product searches on the Amazon.com site, despite the fact that Google has 90% search share. And interestingly enough, over half of consumers say they would, if they only had one site they could go to, it would be Amazon. So when it comes to product, it's kind of a different story. And if you go to the next slide, what happened though a couple of years ago is Google was actually quite dominant even on the product side of search. And it looks like maybe 3 or 4 years ago, Amazon crossed over. Now we're going to get into this, why we think this is and why we think this is actually real or not in the B2B space. But this is not really in dispute that there was a crossover and Amazon really kind of took the reins on product search. And there are some differences between these two. When you look at, which one's good at what, there are some clear differences. And in fact, you read some of the quotes. We have a few more coming up, and this debate is going to be about this. But if you look at this, Google users are often in the discovery mode, which I would argue this is about the battle for the top of the funnel. And if you want to talk about the top of the funnel, I think it's inarguable that it's really Google, because people tend to start on Google side and maybe they go complete the purchase at Amazon, but it does fit into our debate about the lead-centric model versus the closed-loop model. So Google users are often in discovery mode, whereas Amazon shoppers tend to be more in kind of the buying mode. And we'll talk about that here in a moment. And because of that, Google tends to attract people who are browsing and researching, Amazon more on the buying side. And it's funny, we were doing the research for this, the statistics, the data back all this up, and the comments we were getting on LinkedIn were almost identical to this. It just shows you the research seems to be pretty accurate on this. It's also the case that Google people tend to do more searches because they're more at the top of the funnel where they're still discovering. And it's arguable that Amazon search experience is more tactical and direct and getting closer to the actual purchase, so which is more kind of the bottom of the funnel. But if Amazon, and I'll just put them there, is operating more at the bottom of the funnel, Google actually can operate both at the top of the funnel and the bottom of the funnel. And there's been evidence that things like highly specific long tail keyword searches are something that Google does pretty well. And we'll get to this in a moment, which can happen at the bottom of the funnel. So I would argue that Google can operate both the top and the bottom. Amazon more at the bottom. Now you're going to dispute this, but that's what this debate is really about. So when it comes to B2B, we thought it would be helpful to show an example of what we're talking about here. So there are really two paths to purchase here. Here's the Amazon path. So I tried to take the exact same search. I did a very specific search for an RAB floodlight. I'm sure people have bought these before, you know what they are. Here's a picture. So I went to Google and Amazon. I said, well, how do these compare and contrast? Did the exact same search. So what you get on Amazon is something like this, where you can go right to add it to cart and buy it, right? More bottom of the funnel. There's also in the bottom lower right-hand corner, you can see there are other options for places to buy this via the marketplace. In contrast, you've got the Google approach, which is you have the exact same search, but you have a different outcome. And it's really a two-step process versus a wholly integrated kind of closed loop process. Again, same search, same everything, but you'll see in the boxes here, there's a listing of several options for where you can buy this. Notably, some of them don't have reviews. Almost everything on Amazon has reviews, but some of the Google content lacks the reviews. And if you were to bring that out, you would see, dozens of different options for this, as well as price ranges. So again, it kind of lends the idea of being top of the funnel. But just to show where you will go next, we put a box around the first one that shows up in organic search. Again, the ones at the top are kind of sponsored search, and the ones below are organic search. You click on that and it takes you over to a page like Crescent. And we chose Crescent because actually one of our panelists today is with Crescent. And you can see you would then add it to the cart on Crescent site. It's a two-step process, maybe more options on the first part of the process, but arguably a clunkier kind of buying scenario. And it pains me to say that to you, Brian, but because you have to go to two sites. Now, it is also the case, though, I think, and we'll find this, that sellers may prefer this route, and I'm going to editorialize here for a moment, because they control the experience. With the other one, the closed loop Amazon process, I don't get the data, I don't control the customer or the experience. Here, at least, I'm controlling the experience. But that's what we're going to have a debate about today. So hopefully that kind of set the stage for this.
Yeah, I mean, that's great context, Andy. Thank you for that. I mean, it really is a battle for relevancy. And an essential thesis in my book is making the buyer's job easier is the path to success in B2B e-commerce. And I think Amazon has it, you just said it, has that dialed in and, closing the loop and eliminating some of the steps. So we're going to have the debate, though, and I'm so excited about our panelists today. We have two teams of contenders, and let's go ahead and bring them in, Robert. Our first contender that we have in our team Amazon, and again, I'm fighting for team Amazon here, is Rob Golden Boy Green. Rob, I love that name. Welcome. You've got the shine behind you there. You're looking golden. Rob is the former general manager of Amazon Business. Oh my goodness, we have a heavyweight here. He's the golden boy. He's experienced firsthand the awe-inspiring authority of the Amazon algorithm. Yes, I wrote that, Andy. Isn't it like that? He's now at the SVP of e-commerce at Insight, which is a global powerhouse in IT, $8 billion company. Rob says, Amazon has set the bar for delivering excellence in product search, and B2B companies can both capitalize and learn. Interesting, and learn from this. Rob, welcome.
Brian, thank you. Pleased to be here. Pleased to be on your side today.
Excellent. You're the man. You're on the winning side. All right. Our number two on our team here is another awesome e-commerce expert, Alex, the Grappler Graph. Welcome, Alex. You got a cool European city there behind you. I like that. The Grappler says Amazon beats Google hands down when it comes to B2B product search. Wow. He's the CEO of industry-leading e-com platform Spryker Systems. He's got more than 2 decades of experience. He brings this to the fight, Andy. He thinks in his quote is B2B companies must be optimized for Amazon or risk their very relevance to their customers. Wow, the battle for relevance. Alex, I'm glad you're on my team. Welcome.
Moin, moin. Hello from Germany. Already feel sorry for Team Google.
Yeah, me too. I feel sorry for you. Okay, Andy, you want to introduce your team there?
Yeah, let's go with the team that is going to explain why the company that does 3.5 billion searches a day and 1.2 trillion searches a year might know a thing or two about searching. All right, so let's bring in our team here. So we've got Ted Touche-Fay. So don't mess with Touche-Fay, fencing fiend and current VP of e-commerce and digital strategy at Crescent Electric Supply. With a wealth of experience, including digital leadership roles at ACO Brands and Direct Buy, Ted knows the importance of Google and says, Google will win this fight as B2B buying is about much more than just a transaction. And that's the practitioner's view here, Brian, in case you're wondering. And then we've got Damon the Beard Burton. So this world-renowned expert on search engine optimization believes that Google offers insights into B2B buying intent that even Amazon cannot match. And you mentioned earlier, Brian, what Jason had said about search intent. This is clearly the case. It is about search intent. Again, 1.2 trillion searches. You probably know something about search intent. So Damon knows that Google will dominate the product search war by staying hyper relevant to the B2B buyer and says Google has created opportunities to reach B2B buyers that are unparalleled in human history. So Damon, welcome.
Thank you. I need to consider changing my name to Damon the Egg Burton after my kids are hating on my new haircut.
I think it looks good, man.
Thank you.
All right.
One more quick thing before we jump in. I think it's worth noting, and I just want to repeat this over and over again. That in this space, again, I'm adopting the Google side of the equation. One thing you don't have to worry about with Google is Google's not going to compete with you. So I'm going to stick that dagger in and just turn it a little bit before we get started.
Okay. All right. We'll get to that, Mr. Andy. I think it's about that time, right, Andy? It's about that time?
It is.
All right. Let's rumble. I love it. It's so great. Okay, Andy, you and your team have 8 minutes. Let's go.
All right. So this is really the key question today. We thought we'd hit it first, and it's about the top of the funnel and specifically the fight for the top of the funnel. So here's the question. What path, if you're a B2B seller, what path gives you better exposure to the right B2B customers? Team Amazon, let's go to you first. So Rob, you we're at Amazon Business. Presumably, you know a thing or two about this from Amazon's perspective. So why does Amazon give you better exposure to B2B customers?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things to consider, Andy. The first is we were talking about this in the pre-show, which is there's not a lot of data available about B2B searches or B2B in general in the public domain. There are a couple things to know about Amazon Business right out of the gates. It is a $25 billion plus business, grown to $25 billion in just 6 years. Those stats were released in 2019, so you can presume it's much bigger than that since those stats were released. Millions of B2B buyers in North America, in Europe, and in Asia. And so Amazon is effectively curating a broad set of B2B buyers that sellers, wholesale distributors, manufacturers can expose their products to. And so right out of the gates, you've got this curated list of buyers that you can appeal to. One other point I'll make before I turn it over to my colleague Alex is your assertion that Amazon is competing is, I think, one that begs some question, right? And Jeff Bezos, I think it was in his 2019 shareholder letter, even cited the stats that 3P sellers are kicking Amazon's 1P butt, right? So the 3P marketplace, and this is very true for the Amazon Business Marketplace, is growing faster than the 1P business. And I think you contemplate what's going to happen in the B2B space. It's hard to fathom Amazon coming to market with private label products across a broad set of categories in the B2B space. I just don't think it's going to be financially feasible for them. And so that's my opening salvo.
Let's go to you, Alex, before we get the real truth here from the other team.
Yeah, it's so easy on this team here with Rob on my side, but I'd like to add, like, on the 1P versus 3P side. So 1P is like stalling at Amazon. This was focusing on B2C. They never focused on B2B. 1P, it's like 3P only. And actually, I'd like to be where the buyers are. And you asked the question, okay, where do you want to focus in the top of funnel perspective? That's the only platform you have online where you can control top of funnel. You cannot control top of funnel on Google. So it's so far away from the buying intent. Amazon is so close to the buying intent. The data is so much more connected on Amazon. So if I could choose my efforts, I definitely would go for Amazon because you can control, you get better data, and you are getting the buyers directly, not just searchers on the internet.
Fair point. So let's switch sides here and go with Team Google. So, hey, Ted, I think Rob made some news here today. Guess what? Newsflash, Amazon doesn't compete with its own customers. I think you'd be surprised to hear that. I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but why don't you share your perspective?
There's a lot to go there. I'm not going to dig into that one, but I think we've all seen what Amazon can do with their own private label initiatives. Hey, here's a product that sells really successfully. Let's go find someone to make it for us. And that happens in retail as well, but Amazon's become a master at it. I think that if we go back to your question, Andy, the key point is there is the right B2B buyer. I think that's a key differentiator here. When we look at what happens in B2B, McKinsey came out with a study recently that said 2/3 of B2B buyers want to start out online. They want to start out digitally. They're doing their research on their own, and they're identifying and researching new suppliers. And that's where you can get them with Google, right? If you've got a story to tell, if you've got a differentiation, if you've got a value proposition that you need to be able to articulate, if you've got a problem that you're trying to solve, which is my belief when most B2B sellers and organizations are trying to do, that's where you want to meet the customer, right? By the time to get to Amazon, they've already made a decision to purchase X, and they're just comparing, do you have it? Do you sell it for less? Do you have more reviews? Can you ship it to me? That's a great interaction, but it's not controlling the right customer. Google allows you to target whom I'm trying to get to, what type of queries am I looking for, and then also what kind of remarketing and what kind of other activities I get involved in. So I think if you're saying, I want the right customer, Google gives you all the tools to go after that right customer from the very beginning of the funnel, all the way through the experience. And it's really where you should be focusing. Amazon is absolutely a channel, but Google is the right channel to ensure that you should be there.
Well, so Damon, let's go to you. I mean, you make a living off of helping companies find the right customers. You're a world leading expert on SEO. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I'll add just a quick comment, and I think Ted can probably communicate what the actual quota is better than I, but even Bezos said something along the lines that sellers' margins are his profit, right? What was that quote, Ted? Was that what it was?
Your margin is my opportunity.
Yeah. So it's built into their model to compete against you. So then when we talk, one other comment and then two statistics come to mind. So Amazon is good for pre-made, pre-packaged goods, but that largely excludes on-demand product, CPQ, configure, price, quote, wholesale bulk quantities. Like that's the whole model of a lot of these, B2B businesses where they need raw goods, and that's not necessarily available to customize it throughout the order process on Amazon. So then two statistics, WebFX reports that over 70% of people research a company online before deciding to buy. Researching a company on Amazon isn't much of an option. Like if you're lucky, you might have one storefront page and that's it. And the last thing, a statistic from HubSpot reports that 47% of users interact with 3 to 5 pieces of content before engaging a business. So other than that, maybe you're lucky store page and a little bit of product descriptions, Amazon's content's next to 0 compared to Google, which is the king of content.
Yeah, fair point. I'm going to step on the scale a little bit here because I kind of agree with that, not surprisingly, that the content is richer via the Google path. But let's take quickly the second question, because I think we're probably running a little short on time. So if Amazon and Google, we just spoke about them, what's the opportunity here? Yeah, 1 minute, Brian, I got it. What's the opportunity for distributors and manufacturers to win at the top of the funnel? Let's go to team Google on this one first. Damon, quick answer from you, maybe build on your last answer. How is it that manufacturers and distributors can actually compete with Amazon and Google as a separate matter?
Well, I think it all boils down to our discussion of B2B versus B2C. So Amazon certainly has an advantage on the B2C, but B2B isn't just always a straightforward path. And so Robin made the comment that 3P is kicking 1Ps, but and then he also said, Google can't control top of funnel, which I'm caught off guard by that comment because I think Google can control the entirety of the funnel, top of funnel through the educational process, and then also point them to the right direction for the bottom of the funnel. So Google has all around opportunities. And then you get into, we'll talk later in some of the other questions about retargeting and things like that, but Google knows more about you often than you know about yourself. And so they know what your buyer intent is based on all these other interactions.
Yeah, Ted, quick comment from you on this, since you live in this world. How do you attract, traffic to the top of the funnel directly to your site, bypassing Amazon and Google even?
So it depends how early in the funnel you want to get, but you've got real opportunities, particularly with new products, to really go after queries that are even not buying intent ones. You can, someone's looking for a particular solution to a problem, or they're just investigating. You can also use Google to look for life or business events, right? And start to target people from that perspective. So you can go for much less than product-specific queries and opportunities to go after people. And then also to create separate audiences and get much more targeted with what you do in Google than you can with Amazon. When we go to the 3P versus 1P discussion that was had, it's indicative of where Amazon is. When they go to 3P, they're making all their money off of your advertising dollars, right? They're basically becoming Google within their world, and they're telling you, you've got the fulfillment cost, you've got the risk, you've got all of that. We're just going to sit here and charge you for advertising your product on our platform. It's beautiful, but it's not one that really that you can build on.
So
yes, we're out of time, Andy. Got to give my team a chance to respond here.
Let's give Rob a quick chance to retort since his name's been invoked.
Yeah, fair. Look, I think there's a couple of points to consider. I mean, the one is you can't ignore the fact, right, that the 3P marketplace for Amazon Business is outpacing the growth of the 1P business. And so you can try to debunk that all you want, but clearly manufacturers, distributors, resellers are finding value. And they're finding value because they're meeting new customers there, right? And so it is a very, very viable and vital channel, I think, for any B2B seller to contemplate and engage in.
All right, we got it for running long there, Brian, but go ahead.
That's okay. We got to go to our poll question. And Andy, I like how you rigged that one, man. You gave your team more time than mine. All right, guess what? I got the next round. So guys, great arguments. Thank you. Excellent. Let's go ahead and bring that poll question up. Who's going to win the fight for the top of the funnel in B2B? Amazon's closed loop transaction approach or Google's lead centric approach? Go ahead and make your comments. Andy, if I may, make some comments. So look, folks, the world is changing here. We saw it on the B2C side. We're seeing it on the B2B side. You cannot fight customer preference. If the B2B buyer wants to research and buy on Amazon, you, I think, need to be there and accommodating that. Also, the whole comment about private label. Look, the most recent stats I've seen, Andy, there's certainly private label, but look at it against on a percentage basis against your distributors. If you're selling to Home Depot or Lowe's, these guys all have much higher percentages of penetration in private label than Amazon does. I think Amazon, the latest stat I saw was like 2%. So I'm sorry, Rob is right. I mean, look, these products that are B2B, Amazon does private label and highly commoditized things like batteries and cables and things of that nature. Do they go into that side of the business? Absolutely, they do. Will they continue to? I expect they will, but I don't. For a B2B company selling a more complex product, I don't think it's going to be the majority of the sales in that category on Amazon. What do you think, Andy?
I'll just make one quick point, and I quote: "The bulk of Amazon's product pages are woefully inadequate."
Oh, you already quoted that.
Hold on, and differentiate. I want the whole thing. Differentiating product features and benefits. Jason Hine used to work at Amazon. I think we've heard this. Amazon may have a great, tight, efficient, closed loop buying process, but when it comes to making decisions, you have to provide people with product content. And I think Google is a clear winner on this front.
Andy, you're wrong. And the reason is, listen to yourself. So here's the thing.
I thought we were out of time.
We are. But no, listen, Amazon understands the whole buying journey. I don't buy the whole funnel thing. Damon, I hear your argument, but I don't buy it fully. I think Amazon is creating experiences, and we'll get to this in a second, but creating experiences that allow the buyer who's already qualified and they're already issuing or submitting credentials to the platform. Amazon has a good sense of the full buying journey, more so, I would argue, than Google does. And of course, Damon will argue against me. So we got to go. We got to go to the next round. All right.
I'm going to quote you, Brian. You're wrong.
All right, man. All right. Go ahead. You do that. Here we go. Round 2. All right, let's go. Andy, keep me honest. This is my round. I'm full of energy on this one, guys, as you can tell. I'm just talking over the bell and everything. Okay. Our next one is about ROI, right? So ROI, we're going to talk about the return on advertising investment. And we're going to talk first about which platform offers the better tools and process for measuring spend. So we're talking about SEO, which is organic search, and SEM, which would be equivalent to paid search on both platforms, pay-per-click versus natural organic. I'm going to go first to Team Google. And why is this path better? Why is Google better for measuring SEO and SEM? And I'll go first to Ted on this one. Ted?
So Google, there's the wealth of tools around what you can measure on Google is staggering, right? So you can measure just about everything that happens there, and including attribution. Amazon's world is much more closed, and we'll take your money and your product will sell, and that's what it feels like from Amazon. They're pretty far behind on that side. The other part of it is when you look at what happens in the Google world, when you spend money in Google, and this is from direct experience, you can actually watch your sales go up in Amazon as well, right? You start to go out and advertise your product, generate demand, and they see that happen. When you advertise within the Amazon walled garden, nothing happens externally, right? It's an interesting place to play, but there's no network effect of what happens outside that. So Google just opens up a much larger world and a much more measurable world of what you get from an advertising and a planning perspective.
Okay, Damon, you want to add to that?
I just had one thing. When you leverage Google, it creates opportunities in other channels too, kind of like Ted was touching on. So whether you're doing, let's look from the SEO perspective, when you improve the page speed and the content relevance and the user experience, that decreases your cost per click on paid ads. And so you get the benefits there. And then like Ted said, as you increase your brand exposure, it can also bleed over to benefit in other channels, including Amazon as well. So there's an ongoing compounding effect that Google can benefit you within that environment and others.
Okay. And Rob, you mentioned earlier new customers. What about this measurement thing? Do you want to speak to this question?
I think Alex was going to kick us off on this topic since I dominated the earlier round, and then I'll
Alex,
pick up where Alex leads off.
Go for it, Alex.
Yeah. So I would have believed what Ted said like 10 years ago. Then it was true. Google was kind of a a nice environment like for really driving traffic. Today it's just a black box. You have to give Google money and you don't know when it ever comes back. And if you just look at the numbers, how Amazon's advertising revenue grew in the last like 2 years and Google's advertising revenue stalled in the last like 2 years, it's totally clear that the ROI is so much better on Amazon, and you cannot afford to ignore the buyers on Amazon. As long as there are buyers for your product, you have to spend money there because it's a closed loop. It's a direct return on invest, and it's pretty much connected to the spend data you have on Amazon, which is not the case anymore on Google. It's a black box. In Europe, like almost everybody is using Google Analytics, have to get rid of Google Analytics because of data protection stuff. So it's I think Ted told us a story from like 10 years ago. It's not the truth anymore.
Oh boy,
Yeah.
those are fighting words, Rob.
Alex, I couldn't agree more. I'll just pick up on that. I mean, you look at, again, just some high level numbers, right? As Alex points out, Amazon is now a $30 billion advertising business. The Amazon business portion of that, while probably relatively small at this point, is going to become a really big driver there. And it's grown at over 30% year over year. So they've got a really, really robust advertising business. I think you ignore at your own peril. And I'd add to that you think about Amazon is relatively early in the game. They're going to get better and better at this. So you think about targeting and retargeting, and you want to identify key personas in the B2B buying journey. I think you're going to have great opportunity to really be very, very targeted with your ad spend. Last thing I'd point out is during my time at Amazon, I spent a lot of time working with sellers and suppliers, and heard consistently how they were reallocating their ad spend from Google onto Amazon.
Cannot agree more.
Excellent. Well, guys.
So I'd like to thank Rob for making our point to us that Amazon is going to get better and better and better. And when they catch up to Google, they'll be welcome there. So thanks.
I got one comment too. I don't
ahead,
understand the European comment, because don't GDPR rules apply to any platform? That's not a handicap to just Google.
Yeah, but Amazon actually controls the end customer, and they obviously can give you the data that is like collect via Amazon, but you cannot use Google Analytics anymore.
I disagree. I mean, there's a lot of attributions we could get into and go down a deep dark hole, because you can control the data more so than Amazon, because Amazon owns your data.
Interesting.
We have to get back to the question here. The question is where the ROI is better. And like from all the data I know from like dozens of different companies, the ROI is much better on Amazon and much faster.
So tell us more about that, Alex. So, we see this too, high ROIs. Is that true of brand and non-brand searches?
No, yeah. It's so obviously it's true. It's not as crowded. It's like the Google platform, and obviously you have to be smart on Amazon too. So just buying like premium content or brand category sites, that's not how Amazon works. That's nothing you should spend money into. But even on long tail keywords in B2C, you earn money on the like first purchase. You don't need to have like loyal customers. And B2B is long tail content at its best. So it's still very easy to earn money if you can control your keyword bidding on Amazon. Something that's way harder to do now with Google, because there's so much competition on Google. And even if you spend money on some keywords, and Andy showed it in the chart, the buying journey is not that clear. So that might derail later in the purchasing process to other products, which is not the case at Amazon.
So, Damon and Ted, I think you probably disagree, and that Google will in fact provide a better return on investment than Amazon will. You want to expound on that, Damon? For you first.
There's just so many more opportunities for monetization at the top of the funnel and the bottom funnel, nurturing sequences, follow-ups, personalization, retargeting, that just aren't even possible on Amazon.
Interesting. How about you, Ted? What do you think?
Then there's all of the other off ramps, particularly in B2B selling, right? So your opportunity for lead generation, lead nurturing, understanding and getting more data about the customer and understanding what's working and what's not in your environment. The key here is if you're going to invest in one place, it's going to build your entire business. I think it has to be Google. When you look at Amazon, it's an important channel for you to sell through. But in order to go out and reach new customers and kind of grow that business, there's nothing like Google in that world.
Let's actually double click on that a little bit, Ted. You talked about acquiring new customers versus retaining existing. Thank you, Andy. And Rob, you made a comment earlier. I think it'd be good to go down a little deeper on that if you want to expound more on this. But acquiring new customers. What's the better channel for acquiring new customers?
Look, I think
go ahead.
Ted, go ahead.
No, it's yours, Rob. We'll let you go first.
Go ahead, Rob.
So look, I think you look at the opportunity from an Amazon business standpoint, right? They've already got millions and millions of curated buyers for you, right? And if you're a regional player trying to go international, right, you're going to have a great opportunity to reach net new customers through Amazon Business and leverage their capabilities to help you scale internationally. So that's just one use case of many. If you're trying to reach from sort of SMB market into an education market, you can do that targeting through Amazon Business and go into, new industry segments seamlessly.
Interesting. Ted or Damon, any response to that? New customer acquisition?
So from a new customer acquisition, I think it goes back to almost a selling 101 point, right? When you look at Amazon, you're getting the customer at the request for quote phase, right? And I'd rather be the one early on educating them, helping write the spec, making sure your product is in that consideration phase. And that's really what they're looking for. So from a new customer acquisition phase, getting that customer when they're starting to educate themselves, that's where Google fits really, really nicely. And that's where you're going to get them before they've already really made a decision on what they're going to purchase. Google's going to be the one that's going to get you there.
All right, guys, I think we're just up on time here. We got to pick up a little time from our last round. So let's go ahead and go to the poll. Thank you all. Who offers the better return on your search advertising dollar in B2B, Amazon's closed loop transaction or Google's lead centric approach? Go ahead and place your votes. And our panel here is trying to weigh in to sway the votes. That's good. Andy, you want to go ahead and comment? What did you think of that round?
Yeah, I thought that was a fascinating conversation. I mean, there's good arguments on both sides. I know we say this sometimes, but I really mean it. There's even data. I think when we were doing the research on this, Google claims that for every $1 you spend on a Google ad, you receive $8 in profit. Now, this is a Google source. And I wish they would publish more about B2B, hint, hint, Google. But there's also been independent research that's been done to suggest that Amazon's platform has the highest ROAS. Right. And there are multiple sources for this. But I am compelled by what Ted and Damon both said about the lack of a multiplier effect when you're advertising on Amazon, because it's all in that Amazon system. Whereas it's Google, you can see evidence of online and offline elsewhere, right? I also do think when you're calculating a return on your invested spending here, you can't ignore the fact that how do you put a price on the data? I mean, if you're working with Amazon, you don't have access to that data, whereas with Google, you're bringing people to your site. There's got to be a lot of value in just that data.
Andy,
so you've got to factor that into the equation.
Hold on a minute. Okay, so Amazon's a channel. Okay, so you tell me how much if I'm a manufacturer, how much is my other distributors giving me in terms of information? Amazon provides 10 times the information that you're getting from your other resellers. See this across the board. The other thing I'll say is, Andy, in that Google advertising statement, take out branded search and tell me if it's still 8-1. Okay, they're getting that 8-1 from everybody advertising on the brand. We see this in my company where we're running advertising programs on Amazon for people, and we're getting 5 to 6-1 on non-brand search. So that means you spend $1, you get $5 back or $6 back on non-brand search. Damon, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't know if you can get that anymore on Google. I wasn't able to. I was in practitioner world for 17 years. By the time I left, if I got 2-1, I was lucky. I think we're out of time. All right, we got to go to our next round. I get on a soapbox on this, guys. What can I say? Let's go to our next round, Robert. No, you can't say anything. Round 3. Andy, go.
I got to say, Brian excels at rhetorical questioning, by the way.
I do.
Maybe Damon can answer this by not answering.
Sorry, Damon. Here you go. Sorry, man.
So let's go to round 3. Round 3 is about just a pure search experience. We're going from a buyer's perspective. We've been talking about sellers, but hey, let's go to the heart of this thing. And let's have a conversation. Who's got a better search engine? So let's talk first about when it comes to handling kind of simple or basic B2B buyer searches. And are there specific features associated with either Amazon or Google's search function that really stand out? Let's go to Team Google first, and let's go to Damon. What is it that you like about, Google's search engine capability you think separates it from Amazon?
Yeah, so Amazon largely only knows your commerce history, but Google knows your thoughts, your beliefs, your personality, your buying intent, often knowing you better than you know yourself. So things that Google has that Amazon doesn't is search history, obviously, but also YouTube watches, buyer intent. And then the amplifier effect you talk about, it has via Android, it knows your schedule, your routines, what businesses you call and engage with. Via Google Maps, it knows what physical stores, facilities, clients, buyers, sellers, businesses that you're exposed to. So Google can connect the dots between search patterns and product searches to help you identify often the solutions that you need that you don't even know that exist. And you can't do that on Amazon because you can only buy the things on Amazon that largely you're looking for. So they can take all of the above and continue to engage the buyers throughout the retargeting beyond Amazon's singular environment. And then you get that amplifier effect too. So you get the sales at the beginning, at the end. And so you get the whole amplification process through Google and their multi-channel platforms.
And I'll give you a moment. Did you want to reply to Brian's question from the last round?
He does.
Oh, no, I think he shot himself in the foot on that one by cutting me out. So
Sorry, Dan. You can reply. Go ahead.
Ted, what do you think about the search capabilities of Google versus Amazon?
So I think I'm totally aligned with Damon. I think the other thing to add to that is Amazon does a masterful job in the consumer space because they have all the things that you're watching on Prime Video and everything that you've had shipped to your home, and Alexa's listening to your conversation about the hot tub and they're going to start recommending it to you, right? All of those. But in a B2B sense, and I think, my experience is a lot like other people, right? I've got a work computer and I've got home devices, right? I don't watch, and my boss might be on here, so I don't watch Prime Video on my work device, right? It's an isolated world. But what I do searches on my work device, right? I interact with it. I do make purchases for business. And so digitally, I probably have two profiles. They merge a little bit on my phone, but there's two worlds for me. And if I'm talking about a B2B buyer, I think that's where most experiences are. And if you think about what happens for a B2B user, what gets known about them, it's what they're doing on Google online in their business day. And they're looking for information. And that's where Google just has, to reinforce what Damon's saying, a wealth of information. Amazon has just a frightening amount of information about you as a consumer. Like so much that, go ahead, cancel your Prime, throw away your Alexa. They get too much, but they've got a frightening amount as a consumer. But I don't think they have that in business. And I don't think they can provide that rich, the search experience that's going to resolve to a much better result as Google can.
All right, Rob, here's your big opportunity to tell us why these guys are wrong and Amazon does have a wealth of information from a business perspective.
Well, I think, what Damon described, it's a little bit creepy for all of us, right? To think how much Google knows about us as a consumer, but that's what they know about us as a consumer and not as a B2B buyer. And when you think about what Amazon knows about your purchasing preferences, your purchasing history, the industry in which you operate, they can guide the search experience to the products that should be in the consideration set and not to sort of your consumer preferences. So I think it's really important that you look at it from a B2B context versus a B2C context. And Amazon has a lot of insight about what your intent is from a B2B procurement standpoint. I'd add that, they also offer a range of search filters that can help guide you to products that are sustainable products, supplied by minority or diverse suppliers. So there's a number of different important elements or dimensions for B2B buyers that Amazon offers that you don't see on Google.
Well, let's take it up to the next level. Let's talk about more complex searches and just pure search experience, pure search capability, edge cases, because we all know there are times when you're looking for that needle in the haystack. Who's better at that, Amazon or Google? Let's stick with Team Amazon here, but let's switch to Alex for a moment. Alex, what are your thoughts on that? Those obscure kind of long tail searches. Why is Amazon better at that than Google?
I don't even know why this question is in here, because in your statement at the beginning, you said that 75% of all product searches begin in Amazon. And that is for a reason, because people are trusting Amazon much better than they're trusting Google. And Amazon is much better. So if I'm starting to search for like a coloring picture for my daughter, like coloring picture unicorn, whatever, yes, Google is better. When it comes to product, long tail and short tail, Amazon is already better. It was a bit clunky at the beginning. I agree. But now, because of this kind of faceted search, because Amazon knows the attributes of some of the products, the color, the brand, the material, whatever, and it knows that these are attributes used in the long-term key phrase, it's much better in identifying the correct product than Google is able to do, because Google is showing the coloring picture in some of my product searches. And that's actually what users are telling you with the statistics. 75% are starting to search on Amazon because the product search is better.
Well, Rob, since this is the last chance you get a chance time to speak here, did you want to add anything to this?
I couldn't say it any better than Alex just did.
All right, well, so let's switch to the other side then and talk to Team Google. Ted, I think you're going to take the lead on this one. Tell us why Google's better with the complex, more difficult searches.
So I think when Alex and team talk about, if you're looking for a product, if you've already made that decision on what you're going to buy, Amazon has a competitive and a compelling story to sell. But if you're not there, if you're doing that investigation, that research, we talked about this earlier, Google has it trumped. There's just no comparison to getting the search result, getting in something like a knowledge graph, getting into early stage queries. How do I is not an Amazon thing, right? When you're looking, how do I do something? You Google it. You don't Amazon it. You don't Prime. And that's really where people go for their answers to questions. And that's where you want to be as a B2B buyer. You want to be in front of people when they're asking questions.
That's a great point. Nobody says, let me go Amazon that. That's a great point. Maybe that's a bar that Amazon's got to eclipse. But Damon, you get the final word on this one. So what are your thoughts? You live in this world.
So Alex didn't get the memo that when Andy said 75% of purchases start on Amazon, he was referring to B2C, not B2B, probably because the data is so low that it doesn't exist.
Wow.
That's a final word.
Knockout punch. Well, Brian, I think on that
All right,
note,
let's go to the poll question.
Go to the poll.
Thank you, everyone, guys. Good arguments. Here's our poll question: who offers the better overall search experience for B2B buyers? Amazon's closed-loop transaction approach or Google's lead-centric approach? Place your votes now. It's interesting, Andy. I think Rob made a really good point, which is, in some ways, Amazon, because the buyer they see the whole buying journey. The buyer's logged in, right? There's certain criteria, there's certain attributes that buyer is exhibiting when they're creating an account on Amazon, and it is about that B2B purchase. And I think that provides some fundamental advantages to Amazon to allow them to curate the searches more effectively for a B2B buyer. Think about this. I'll give you an example. We have clients that work in the medical device space, right? And so some of those products are only purchasable by they're FDA regulated products. These are class 2, class 3 regulated devices. Well, you need to submit through Amazon, you need to submit your licensure as a doctor or a healthcare practitioner in order to be able to make the purchase of those products. And then Amazon will present certain criteria, attributes, et cetera, in the search experience that will allow the customer to more effectively find the right kind of product for the procedure even they're looking for. So I'm sorry, that is a very curated experience that is based on the knowledge of that B2B buyer. And those are places where I think Amazon can win. But what did you think?
Well, I think the point that Team Google made at the end there is, in theory, Google has access to a great deal more information. I mean, Amazon really is deep in commerce, and there's a lot to be said for that. But I'm a victim of this myself. I am on Android in many ways, shapes, and forms, and it does kind of frighten me to think what Google does in fact know about me, where I go, what I do. Ted said, you don't say, let's Amazon this, let's Google this. So when you become the verb associated with the very thing you're talking about, there's a lot to be said for that. I do think, though, Google is really good at search and complex searches, which have, 16 number letter combinations. I trust Google to do this. In fact, I've even found, and maybe you have as well, that some B2B sites who don't have great site search capability, their best search engine is Google, because their buyers go to Google and find the stuff indexed on their site via Google. Nobody goes to Amazon to do that, for example. Even if they could, they wouldn't. So
I hear what you're saying on that, Andy. And I think actually there's a whole nother webinar we can do about the bar that's being set by both Google and Amazon for distributors, for manufacturers on their own sites. Site search is so critical. So we're gonna cover off on that and in the future as well. So I think we've got to get to our closing arguments here. So let's go ahead and bring Alex back, Alex the Grappler. And Alex, the floor is yours for your closing arguments, sir. You have 2 minutes.
Yeah, thank you for the very interesting debate. And just one word to Andy. Nobody's saying I have to Disney Plus this. People are still using like Netflix as a verb here, but Disney Plus is doing like much better in this industry already, at least like last year. The question here was who's like better, Amazon or Google? What platform is better? I think the more interesting or relevant question, like, who is doing better on Amazon and on Google? And there's like a certain kind of a company that is doing better. That's company that are learning faster and adapting new trends. So of course you can have a still very positive ROI on Google and on Amazon, but you have to be very clear that tactics that are that were on vogue like 2021 are commodity today. So you have to step up your game. You have to be much better when it comes to long tail keywords. You don't need to trust like the Google recommendation engine when it comes to your keyword bidding. And I think that's a strategy companies, especially in B2B, should follow. They can still use both platforms, but they have to be like top 5% of the herd. They have to be like really top of the game and hire the best people, use the best technology to do it. And then you can have like a very positive ROI on both platforms. Today, I think Amazon is still under leveraged. There's too much competition already on Amazon, on Google, also like for B2B. So it's maybe a bit easier today to earn money, to have like a better return on invest on Amazon today. But this gap might be closed like end of this year. And then still you have to be like in top 5%, like for the easy entry, Amazon might be the better platform this year still, but next year it's a very on par competition, and only the smartest B2B company is going to win.
Great points, Alex. Thank you so much for that. Okay, I think it's time. All right, here is the decision. And so dramatic. Okay, that was quite a debate, Andy. Lots of good points. We went a little Jerry Springer there. It's all good. What are some of your takeaways from this session, Andy?
Well, first of all, I want to say I think that was an excellent close by Alex, which I think is actually completely accurate. I think Amazon might have a slight edge in certain areas right now on the commerce side, but there's more headroom for Google. They just need to take advantage of it. And there's been a lot written about where Google's had missteps around this stuff. If Google's watching this, you have tremendous opportunity in this space, and you should be taking advantage of it. All right, so a couple of things. One, to this point, you can argue this one, but Google does compete with you. I think that's a fundamental difference. Google does provide you information because you're able to bring people to your site. They're not going to get in the way, of what you're trying to do. I think it's also the case they have better content. So if you look at the argument here, there's a strong argument, even though it's maybe a clunkier, buying path, and they deserve some criticism for that. Maybe they can simplify that path. For a seller, in theory, it's a better approach, I think, than the Amazon approach. But I'm sure you're going to tell me differently.
Well, I think so. I have 3 key takeaways. I like to try to sum things up from my opinion and what we heard today. First and foremost, Andy, it's not. Let's be honest. It's not either or, right? Amazon has to be a part of a B2B go to market strategy, and they're actually, I would agree, closer to the bottom of the funnel. I don't fully agree on the content thing because I do believe they're providing tools like enhanced brand content and storefronts and other guided purchase experiences that B2B companies should take advantage of. Like Eric Nebby at Masterlock, he said it really well here in a comment. Companies should leverage Google and Amazon to generate leads and sales, right? That's it. 2, I think that every manufacturer must have an Amazon presence and must sell their products on Amazon, even if it's not the entire catalog, because you need to stay relevant to new buyers. People are buying products on Amazon. The competitive landscape is changing. If you are not paying attention, you are losing market share. You need to be on Amazon. Thirdly, I think there's the silent implication here, Andy, is for distributors. The bar is high here now. If search is happening outside of your site on Amazon, on Google, and other places, what does that say about your own site search? So you need to be on and learning from these platforms, and really the bar is being set there. So we're almost up on time here. So we need to get through our poll results. Let's go ahead and pull those up. Robert, round one, who's going to win the fight? Top of the funnel, Google. Oh man.
Is that
I got slaughtered.
Is that blood I see splattered on your chair back there, Brian?
Oh, you got
That one I must
slaughtered.
admit, that one I missed though. I mean, in doing the research for this, it became pretty clear that Google really does operate at the very top of the funnel. And Amazon's got to find a way to get to the higher end of the funnel, to be honest.
All right. Well, Andy, by the way, when you search on Google, Amazon shows up in the top 3 all the time. So
It does. That's right.
There you go.
Which means Amazon's paying Google. Interesting.
All right, whatever. All right. Round 2. Who offers a better return on your search advertising dollar? Interesting. Closer. Okay. Well, I disagree with the audience here. Okay. So I get beat again, but I will tell you that I see this every day, 5-6 to 1 on non-brand search. People show me, and I know Damon wants to answer.
Brian, I'm going to go out of character here because I kind of agree with you on this one. I think the evidence is that Amazon's ROAS is better.
It is.
But Google has more evidence. It's been around longer with regard to this. And I think it's established itself as a legacy player here. But people need to look at the data around this because I do think there's an
It's
interesting
proven,
argument
man.
for Amazon. Yeah.
You show the data and it's anecdotal. Okay, let's go to round 3. Round 3, who offers a better overall search experience? Man, for B2B buyers, I got crushed again. All right, well, this has been a great debate, guys. Thank you, everyone, for being on it. This is really important. Andy, good session today.
Yeah, it was a great debate, and see everybody next month.
Take care, everybody.